elections in Adamawa and Kebbi states still pending. The battle for the 2023 general election is yet to be concluded. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) fixes Saturday, 15th of April, for governorship, national and state assembly supplementary elections. On the interview segment for today, we will be discussing the 2023 election and national cohesion with the chairman of Inter-Party Advisory Committee (IPAC) and Presidential Democratic Party (ADP) Abaji Yusuf Sani as our guest. Welcome to Politics Tonight. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. The Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has fixed Saturday, 15th of April, for governorship and state assembly supplementary elections. In a statement issued after a meeting, INEC says it has decided that all outstanding governorship, national and state assembly supplementary elections will take place that day. The announcement comes barely 1 week after the governorship elections in Kebbi and Adamawa states were declared inclusive due to breaches of electoral laws that led to cancellation of results in some polling units. Meanwhile, the leadership of the Adamawa State chapter of the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, has called for calm as tension brews ahead of the rerun governorship election in the state. The Christian body urged citizens to remain calm, peaceful, law-abiding, and allow the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) conduct the exercise in a peaceful atmosphere. Speaking to journalists in Yola, the state chairman of the association, Bishop Stephen Mamza, called on INEC to be an unbiased umpire while carrying out its constitutional roles.
We therefore call on all to remain calm and to renew their confidence on INEC, independence and professionalism for openness in handling of the votes of the electorate as we set to go for a rerun. We are also calling with a strong voice on both the law enforcement agencies and the media not to allow institutional pressure and interference affect them as they try to give an unbiased and extensive security coverage of the process of voting, collation, and tabulation of results.
A high court in Makurdi, the Benue State capital, has restrained the embattled national chairman of the People's Democratic Party (PDP), Iyorchia Ayu, from parading himself as chairman of the party, pending determination of the substantive suit, which has been adjourned to 17th of April for hearing PDP from Benue State to help as the national chairman of the party. Addressing journalists in Makurdi after obtaining the court order, Utan said following the suspension of Ayu by his ward executive committee on Sunday, it is wrong for him to continue to stay in office and further disunite the party. Ayu was suspended for anti-party activities in the wake of the party's loss in the presidential election. But in a statement by his media aide, Simon Imobutuan, the former lawmaker argued that the ward lacked the powers to suspend him.
I'm sure you are aware of the facts of the matter as it concerns us here in Benue. We naturally expected that out of the performance that we have just recorded as a party in Benue, we naturally expected, like it's done in Senate climbs for the former national chairman, Senator Iyorchia Ayu, have stepped aside honorably, able to lead the party to victory and allow the party to move on without him. Unfortunately, he has refused to display that kind of honor. So I thought it wise to approach the court to see how to agree with the position of his ward, who only 24 hours ago had suspended him from the party. Our expectation is that you cannot be the national chairman of a party that you are not a member of. Unfortunately, or should I say fortunately for us as a party, Iyorchia Ayu is no longer a member of the People's Democratic Party as declared by his ward, and under normal circumstances he has no reason whatsoever to continue as national chairman of our party.
At this point, let's take a short break, and when we return, it will be time to speak with the chairman of Inter-Party IPAC and presidential candidate of the Action Democratic Party, ADP, Yabaji Yusuf Sani, elections and national cohesion. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching Politics Tonight, digging beyond the headlines. And now to our interview with the guest of the day. I am joined by the chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Committee, IPAC, and presidential candidate of the Action Democratic Party, ADP, Yabaji Yusuf Sani, popularly known as YY Sani, is an energy and crude oil expert and current national chairman of the Action Democratic Party, ADP. He was a presidential candidate in the 2019 general election and a founding member of All Nigerian People's Party, ANPP. He emerged as the chairman of IPAC in 2021 and was declared as the ADP presidential flag bearer at the Special National Convention of the party on the 31st of May in Abuja, where he was chosen by consensus. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, sir. A very good evening to you, and thank you for joining us, Yabaji Yusuf Sani. All right, so we'll have to take a break now, and we will be back with this discussion. Please stay with us.
TVC News first with breaking news.
We cover the big political stories in Nigeria, but people want more than just politics.
Business news, sports naturally, but you need news to live by also.
Stories about education, health, personal finance, and hey, even lifestyle news.
Newspaper reviews, travel news, and much more.
Nigeria, it's more than just politics. It's life.
Start your day with us every weekday.
TVC News Breakfast. First, fast, balanced, and accurate.
TVC News first with breaking news. Every major news story is with many perspectives and layered with different levels of impact.
Hello. What time did this happen? We will be right there.
At TVC News, we follow the big and major news, gathering the facts, witnessing the outcome.
I am here live at the aftermath of the approval of the new national minimum wage.
We are TV Station of the Year, not just for breaking news, but for being first, fair and accurate. TVC News, first with breaking news.
In the month of March, on the 3rd is World Wildlife Day. On March the 8th is a day set aside as International Women's Day. March 13th is Commonwealth Day. And March 21st is the Day of Racial Discrimination and also World Down Syndrome Day. World Water Day is on the 22nd. And March 24th is World Tuberculosis Day. While March 25th is International Day of Remembrance of the Victims of Slavery. Finally, on the 28th of March, it's 1 year remembrance of the Abuja-Kaduna train attack. Brace yourself for an interesting March, only on TVC.
Doubt and fear doesn't occur at the canvas, it shows in the canvas. It shows the conation of raw ether material slabbed, stroked, and molded at a pace provided by the doubt and fear. Every move way in the struggle of one to the other, merging the past to the present, brushstrokes of colors seen but not known. For when the wailing stops, the pieces settle down in abject beauty erected for a century of a century. Speaking, advocating, protesting as the arts are meant to be.
The TVC News at 7 and the TVC News at 10 are not like any other news broadcast.
It's the big news hour, the hour for the big breaking stories.
We've got some of the best reporters on the field,
Taking you through as it happens.
It's fast-paced, hard-hitting,
With investigations that matter.
bringing in news that affects your life.
With sport, entertainment, and business news so you don't miss a thing.
Experience resourceful coverage with depth.
Every night.
Come back. You're still watching Politics Tonight, digging beyond the headlines. And now to our interview with the guest of the day. I'm joined by the chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Committee, IPEC, and presidential candidate of the Action Democratic Party, Yabaji Yusuf Sani. It's so good to have you on the program. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Good evening to you. Now, let's start with the performance of your party in the 2023 presidential election. How do you assess the party's performance?
Well, I think we did very well because if you look at the background to the whole elections and what really played out in the whole exercise, you will agree with me that it was largely ethnic contest. You could see that the top candidates were either Igbo, Hausa, or Yoruba. That was the criteria. And again, like you will agree with me, a lot of infractions, came into the elections. And you have to have government machinery to be able to, even if you have the money, to be able to actualize, your dream. So against all odds, we were able to do our best in the circumstance, and we look forward to the future.
All right, so talking about the outcome of the exercise itself, how will you describe the outcome, beginning with the presidential election?
Nigeria is a very big country. We play big in the Committee of Nations. We are the largest economy on the continent of Africa, largest population. We have a very dynamic population, meaning young, dynamic population. And we have a situation where the youth have been mobilized sufficiently in terms of getting involved in the election process, as we witnessed in the last elections. When the presidential election, except for the anticlimax of not being able to upload the results from the polling unit, it was largely a peaceful election, you can say, because certainly there were instances where violence, wanted to rear its ugly head. Use of money was also there. But all in all, as a big nation, like I've said, we are the biggest population on the continent of Africa. And then the fact that this is the 7th time, I think, we are embarking on a process like this. So since 1999, I'm talking about. So I think it's not a bad outing completely as far as mobilization of Nigerians is concerned, as far as the excitement of Nigerians is concerned, as far as the involvement of Nigerians in deciding their future is concerned. What did not, work for us is the technology. That was the anticlimax when you talk about the presidential election. But then, when you look at the National Assembly elections, well, I think everything that INEC promised, they were able to achieve. Meaning that beavers worked in a number of places. The transmission of results, meaning uploading of the results for the national elections, it worked. The only one that did not work as a result of the glitches, that's what we are told now, is the issue of the uploading of the results of the presidential elections. And that was a big anticlimax because you could see the repercussion, meaning that there was a huge voter apathy when it came to the March 18 election for the governorship and House of Assembly elections, because Nigerians were disappointed, with the failure of the technology at the point that it was needed. So, presidential election, I think it was, as far as Nigerians are concerned, if you are talking about whether or not Nigerians were excited about, the exercise, they wanted to really determine, who governs them from now on. I don't think you could have it better than that, from what we had. What I think we need to take a look at and see how we can perhaps, do it better is the issue of transmission of results from the polling units. That is uploading of the results from the polling unit. Of course, there are a lot of issues, involved in that. But when you weigh them against sustenance of democracy itself and the fact that we are looked up to as a nation for leadership, not only on the continent of Africa, but the whole world, because you could see how the whole world was focused on Nigeria on that day, and how the international community, observers from the European Union, from all corners of the world, were here. From ECOWAS, that's from the AU, from domestic, everybody was here wanting to see how Nigeria would perform. And believe you me, I think we performed wonderfully well, because the fact that that election took place, the crisis, I'm talking of violence, did not mar the elections, in particular, and the fact that the agencies too, the security agencies, gave a good account of themselves to a very large extent, because, like I started telling you, Nigeria is a very big country. Conducting an election in Nigeria is like conducting an election in the whole of West Africa, if not more. So what happened, of course, like I said, it's not uhuru yet. It's not what we expected, but it's something that we can probably build on, depending on how the process goes. If you remember, when the coalition was going on, we had to step in to now ask INEC to go on, because, of course, there were political parties that were not happy with what happened, as the promise given to Nigerians, and what the INEC guidelines also said that they are going to transmit immediately, meaning that they are going to also upload results immediately, and that didn't happen. Of course, the political parties were not happy, because that itself, it will be considered as a minus, a big minus in the election itself. But democracy is about the people, and it's for the people, and we must allow, since we have a legal framework which is governing the process, we must allow the process to continue to its logical conclusion, so that we can explore the same law to now seek redress, which is what is happening today. A number of parties have gone to court because of what they saw as violation of the process itself, or the elections not conducted in line with what was promised then, which is the major aspect of it, which is the transmission, uploading of the results from the polling unit. Otherwise,
right, before we get to that, in your submission,
yes,
you mentioned two very important issues. One, voter apathy, and you also talked about anticlimax on the part of INEC, which are very, very critical issues moving on. So where do we go from here, and what factors could have been responsible for these two issues, two challenges?
Well, two challenges we had is because, one, the issue of voter apathy, like I said, that was a result of the fact that there was a big disappointment in the presidential election. Then, number two, the INEC not performing up to the required expectation is the manner of how the organization itself is put together. I'm talking about INEC as an organization now. If you remember, you observe that the REC, I'm talking about resident electoral commissioners in the 36 states plus federal capital, were all appointed by Mr. President. And you have also INEC chairman appointed by Mr. President. So from that, national commissioners appointed by Mr. President. So the issue is that people have measured expectations, of these people, because they were appointed by Mr. President, and Mr. President is interested in this election because he's a member of a political party. So we're asking that going forward, perhaps we could take a second look at how INEC chairman, national commissioners, residence election commissioners are appointed, because if they say he who pays the piper dictates the tune. So this is one area fundamentally that we must take a look at and see how we can look at it and see to separate, the commission from the influence of the presidency. So this is one aspect that I think we can look at and perhaps be able to achieve what we can say is near an ideal situation in terms of conduct and of the election in this country. Another thing is, if you remember, leading to the elections, there were some unnecessary dysfunctional policies that were announced by the administration. One of them is the recoloring of the money. So that too, that was a disruptive, policy, and it introduced some unnecessary blocks. I'm talking about problems, to the process itself. So it was enough that we had, an election for the first time, introducing some of these technical innovations. Then again, to add the problem of lack of money, was counterproductive, really, to the elections themselves, because it doesn't check any vote buying. If you weigh or examine the amount of money that are used in this election and compare with the previous ones, maybe you even have more money used here. So that too introduced unnecessary problems to the process. Again, you had the problem of, like I said from the beginning, we had introduced ethnicity into the whole thing. So you have the nation, a kind of contest between these ethnic groups, and that is not healthy for our democracy. We are looking for merit. We are looking for people being elected based on their capacity to deliver. It doesn't mean that you cannot or best people with the brains from any ethnic groups in this country. But a situation where you make it a requirement, a prerequisite, then that defeats the purpose of an election as far as good governance is concerned. So when you look at the two things, like you asked me, one, the issue of voter apathy. Voter apathy set in because of disappointment and because it was an ethnic kind of thing, and then because of also the problems leading to the election itself, which made the election to become more problematic than it's supposed to be. So these are the factors that I think, like I said.
We saw quite violence and intimidation, especially during the governorship election. But in both capacities that you hold, what do you think was responsible for this?
Well, what was responsible for this is the fact that people in government do things with impunity, and unfortunately, our courts, they have not yet, step up to the plate to adjudicate in a manner that will make people to behave, as normal citizens, regardless of your position, whether you are a governor or a National Assembly member or House of Assembly member. What is as shown in this country is that once you are occupying one government position or another, you can do anything and get away with it. So these are the drawbacks that we have in our system today. That's why the governors all over the state came out as army occupation. They came out with money, with all sort of manner of using force and what have you. So in some cases, they even bypass the beavers. So by the time people go to court, you will see what happened. There was a lot of gangsterism, really, that was shown by some of these governors, during the elections. So these are things that if our courts were working, if courts themselves, judiciary has not, inflicted this kind of huge trust deficit and then confidence in the judiciary, I'm sure maybe the governors will have behaved, properly. That's why you had violence. That's why you had money used in a manner. That's why you had, the rules not followed, by most of the states. So I hope that by the time some of the cases that are now before the courts are adjudicated, Nigerians will see that the judiciary is on the side of the people. We're supposed to be the last bastion of a common man. So if they become what they are today, that the highest bidder takes the judgment, then we have lost the country. Because if you don't have a strong judiciary in any country, believe you me, that country is as good as gone, because anything goes. And if anything goes, then your guess is as good as mine. What will happen?
All right, Alaji, so from your assessment, can we have an election in which the arbiter sticks fully to its own rules?
Well, we can if our judiciary works. If the security agencies, do their job in a manner that will portray them as representing the interests of this country. But I'm happy because I heard that the IG was saying that they have arrested about 700 and something thousand people. I think I heard it correctly, or 701 people, they said. But even if it's 700 people that they arrested, and they'll be taken to court, and some of them will be punished, I'm sure it will serve as a deterrent, for anybody that want to copy that. But the case is what we have had before. You hear of anybody being punished, for some of these infractions, committing some of these infractions during elections. That's why the issue of the Electoral Act, this Electoral Commission, Offences Commission, should also be fast-tracked by the 10th National Assembly that will come in. So we have a commission that will now be in charge of electoral offences. Perhaps if you have such a focus in that area, it will make meaning and it will give effect to the Electoral Act 2022 itself, which is a good development. But the downside of it, that is what has been missing, is how do you punish those who commit atrocities against, the process. So this is not yet really put together in a manner that will serve as deterrent. So yes, we can have an election conducted. Yes, you can have people following the laws, the rules and regulations in the elections. But if you do not have a system of punishing people, then because the stakes are too high, people will try to take advantage, and they know that they can pay their way and get away once they are in power. These things will continue.
Thank you for that. Because, I asked this question because, just like you hinted, there are reports that the Beavers was bypassed in some elections. So I would like to know who really is to blame for this, the politician or INEC?
Well, I think it's the INEC personnel. Don't forget that some of these personnel are ad hoc staff that INEC has engaged. INEC barely knows some of these people before they engage them. So, yes, well, you will blame them, blame INEC, but I think the security agencies are supposed to also, ensure that when they observe a situation where violations like this are taking place, they should step in, they should stop it. They can call for support if they don't have enough manpower at that particular location. So these are the things that we expect to be done. And like I always say, the so-called developed democracies, it's because laws are obeyed, regardless of who you are. But if you don't obey the rules and regulations, there's no magic that you can perform to make the system to work. So the system in America, in Europe, in other climes are working because laws are observed and they are enforced. There's no other magic. So this is the problem. If we can enforce our laws, you bypass the beavers, like INEC told us before the elections, that no beavers, no elections. So let's INEC be on the process and do what they say they are going to do. Let them cancel those elections as the courts, because people have filed their petitions before the tribunals. Let the tribunals save on the most populous nation on the continent of Africa. Because Nigeria matters, believe you me. We shouldn't, because of this pretense that they give them, sacrifice the whole of the future of this country. So, yes, we can have an election where rules are obeyed. If judiciary really steps up to the plate and then adjudicate, not on the basis of technicalities, because the common man does not know anything about technicalities. Technicalities is interpreted to mean that you have been compromised. That's why you are looking for ways to support what is wrong in the eyes of the people. What is wrong is wrong. So don't bring technicalities into adjudicating on the matter of election. This is about the people. Yes, well, of course, if there are some obvious technicalities, you can use them. But in this country, the Supreme Court itself, is that technicalities are being used to bring down the image of the judiciary, believe me, because Nigerians suspect, that the judiciary has been compromised. That's why they're looking for all these technicalities to adjudicate on some of the cases brought to them. So this time around, please let them do something. Let them save democracy. Let them add to the good things that we were able to achieve in this process. It wasn't that everything was bad. No, there are good things that came out of these elections, but the ones that, did not work for us happen to be the ones that matter. So this is why the judiciary should wake up and then do the needful by ensuring that those elections where beavers were bypassed, INEC know, because they are the ones that were using the beavers. If they allow people to access to those beavers, it will show that the results are just cooked up, written by hand and cancelled and what have you. So I think both INEC, the judiciary, the security agencies, they are the ones that are the one that can save our democracy, can promote our democracy, can save this country, can give us a country that our children and children's children, generations that are born, will come and be proud of what we are doing.
All right. Alhaji, let's get to talk about your party. Now, what's next for the ADP after the elections? As analysts always accuse some parties of going to sleep after elections.
Well, yes, there are some parties, but I think it will not be fair if INEC use this election as a yardstick to measure the performance of political parties. Why? Because it wasn't an ideal situation. It wasn't anything near a fair play. INEC promised that we are going to give us a free, fair, credible election. That didn't take place. What took place is like what you normally have in the local government elections that is not conducted by INEC, which is normally conducted by the state, electoral commissions. And those ones, like it just looks like an organized kind of thing, organized crime, if you want to use the word. Because it is always one party that wins, and it's always the party in power in such states. That's what has happened today. If you go to other states, you find that all the House of Assembly elections were won by one party, and that is the party in power in that state. And you find governorship also changing hands, from one party to the other. So if INEC uses this election to assess the performance of political parties, INEC has not been fair to even itself, because they have to put their own house in to parties that don't have government in place. So they cannot say that parties failed to meet their standard in terms of performance. So ADP performed, wonderfully. Believe me, we know that we did our best, and we believe that at the end of the process, when all these court cases are over, you will see. That's why I'm saying I hope that the judiciary will step up to the plate and save this democracy, hard-earned democracy for Nigeria.
All right, Alhaji, you say INEC should not use this election as a yardstick to judge political parties because it is not credible and was not conducted under an ideal situation. But the Director General of your party presidential campaign describes it as one of the most credible. She has also urged candidates to take it in good faith and said because people voted their conscience.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, I even said the same thing. In my own initial, remark, I say that as to Nigerians coming out to do their civic responsibility, I mean, we give kudos to Nigerians. They came out in their numbers. What happened now is that when they wanted to now cast their votes, the field was not level, like you said. You know, there were other factors that are beyond even Nigerians that came out to perform their civic responsibilities. People were compromised. You know, money was used. You know, in some cases, violence was used, and you can only use these things if you are in power. So nobody says Nigerians did not, you know, answer the call to duty by coming out to perform their civic responsibility by casting votes. They did, but the votes do not count. You know, that's the point I'm making. So we must commend Nigerians because they came out. It was only that those who are in possession of power, either by authority or by money, used it, you know, to their advantage, and then they compromised the electorate. So that's why I'm saying, and it was the fault of INEC, because INEC supposed to ensure that beavers were used. In most cases, beavers were bypassed, you know.
All right. So the 2023 general election was, dogged by so much bad blood and hatred among Nigerians. Now, given the way the campaigns went, was this inevitable?
Well, to a very large extent, it was expected that. Some people were even saying that the elections may not even take place, or if it did take place at all, they were saying that we may have a hung, election. So I believe that that's why I say we must commend Nigerians. We must congratulate ourselves that at least the process took place. No matter how bad it may be. So the campaigns, from the primaries to the campaigns and to the election itself was characterized, like I said, by ethnicity, a kind of contest. That's what we had. So it wasn't issue-based campaign in particular. It was a case of this is where I am from, and that's why you must vote for me. Not because of what I can give. And you will see that most people were really not engaged in the way that they want to be engaged. Especially if you look at the campaigns, it was like just a jamboree. People go and start abusing each other, start dancing and what have you. That's all they did. There wasn't anything about the economy, about our GDP, about how much employment they are going to really bring, how they are going to grow the economy was not the issues at the campaign. What was the issues was, it's our turn. This tribe should not have the chance again. This one should not do. Okay. So all those things, of course, what do they lead? They lead to anarchy, because those are mundane things that you have, you have raised to the high pedestal instead of raising issues to the high pedestal where Nigerians can now see how their economy is going to perform better, how they are going to be more united, how they are going to be more peaceful, how the issue of kidnapping and killings will stop, and how Nigeria will be respected, once again. So, but thank God we have an election which we have conducted. Thank God we are before the court, which is what happened everywhere in the world. So we are pursuing this process in a manner that I think will earn the respect of the international community, because we are not killing each other. We don't pray that will happen, and I'm sure Nigerians now know better that to kill each other, to create unnecessary tension on the land is not in the interest of anybody at all. Those who believe in God, power belongs to God. He gives to who he wants, when he wants, how he wants. So wherever God has given power in the interest of this country, let us see how we can correct those things that are not proper, and let the judiciary, really, like I said, step up to the plate. Let them give us this democracy.
But the question still remains.
Can give this democracy the face it requires.
But the question still remains: what could be responsible for this at this stage of our democracy?
What is responsible for what? For the crisis or something, or what?
Yes, at this stage of our democracy.
What is responsible, like I said, is the fact that we were not pursuing the campaign were not based on issues. They were based rather on those mundane things that were our fault lines. They were just issues of how to now widen those fault lines to become more obvious. That is why everything ended in the kind of tensed, situation. It wasn't Nigeria that people were looking at. People were looking at, my tribe, my ethnicity, my region. How do we get to be, as if in the olden days where people now go to war to conquer people, not, and for yourselves, not for like army of occupation, like I said. So that's what happened. When we start pursuing elections on issues, I'm sure you will have people behaving in a manner that will promote peace, and you will have a good governance. That's what you are going to have. But in a situation where you are pursuing it from a very narrow, perspective, that it's because I'm from here, that's why I must be given chance now. That cannot translate into an ideal situation that this 21st century economy, requires. And why we are at each other's throat, like I said, is that we are not looking at the issues from the perspective of Nigeria. We are looking at it from the perspective of which ethnic group is this, which religion is this, which region is going to do this. So that's why it becomes very, very divisive. So until we get away from that, until we outgrow those sentiments, those mundane things, those things that do not add in any way to good governance, we cannot have a peaceful election or a peaceful nation, because it will be a nation that is based on divisiveness, tendencies. That's what characterized the election, the campaigns, and even the elections themselves. So the only way we can have this beautiful nation with promise of greatness is when we abandon those sentiments and concentrate on issues, concentrate on merit, concentrate on what you can give. We don't look at you from the point of view of who you are, what kind of language you speak, or what kind of religion you practice, faith you practice, or what kind of which region you come from. We look at you from what can you really give, in terms of building this nation. That is not yet the main issue. So until that becomes the issue, I'm sure we will continue to have this vicious cycle of crisis that, you are not from here, so don't do this. The man that has been elected as first minister, prime minister in one of the countries, the Glasgow, Oxford, I think it is. It's a Pakistani. So you can see, it wasn't a question of, you are not a British man, you are not a Caucasian. No, that wasn't the case. The case is, what can they give? So we must reach that stage in this country too, before we can start having peaceful, a very credible and then, progressive, election and environment.
All right, Alaji. The elections have come and gone, but I would like to know, what steps do you think we should take towards national cohesion?
Well, we must address the issue of having peace, because peace is very important, in whatever you want to do. If there's no peace, believe you me, there's no way we can have, anything. Once there is crisis, once there is war, once there is anything that is not peace, believe you me, we all lose our rights. Your human rights is taken away from you. You can't talk about house, food, love or anything. Is gone. You are just there, like one animal or something like that. So, and then we want to enjoy our human rights. We want to continue to, exist as people that have rights. When you have crisis, believe me, you don't have any rights. Your future, what happened to you, is anyone's guess. We don't want that to happen. So that's why we must build peace. We must put aside our selfish interest, and then work for what is good for this country. And what is good for this country, believe you me, is what we will use together as citizens. One person that can become the president at any given point, at any given point in time. Let's conclude this process, and then peacefully, because peace is very important, and that's why we as myself as chairman of Interparty Advisory Council, we're telling our colleagues that the most important thing is how to maintain peace in this country. That's more important than anything. So crisis will not give anybody anything good. So we stand for peace, and we stand for democracy. Our role is to deepen the roots of democracy. Our role is to ensure that the dividends of democracy is delivered, to Nigerians. So because there's no other system of governance that comes near democracy. And again, what I always tell people is that when democracy fails, believe me, the first casualties are the political parties and the politicians. But the biggest losers are the people themselves. So this is why we shouldn't allow democracy to fail. We shouldn't allow anything to occupy our space other than democracy. No matter
so, do you support the suggestion that we need a government of national unity at this time?
Very much so. We have been discussing that long before this time. I've been talking to all the parties, APC, PDP, and other parties, that we need to have a situation where this winner takes all syndrome, does not, is not allowed to exist, because Nigeria, whether you want to believe it or not, is a collection of nations for now. And for you to have these people together, you must go beyond, the issue of political parties, that this is our party. No. Try to see how we can bring everybody together, including political parties. Try to see how we can have an inclusive government. By the time you have inclusive government, everybody will now going to happen. And what is it all about? It's about power. It's about power sharing. It's about building the nation. It's about building the economy. It's about ensuring that every Nigerian is proud of being a Nigerian. And the only way that can happen is when you have a government where everybody feels that he has a stake in. This is why the government of, inclusive government is important. It's a necessity. And the time we are in now, we must reach out to others, no matter how aggrieved they may feel now. There are ways by which, maybe through IPAC or something, we can reach each other and talk to each other as Nigerians and see how we can really project this beautiful country that has so much in terms of greatness, to become a reality. So I know inclusive government is what we've been preaching even before the elections. Believe me, I have a committee under IPAC that has been working on this. We've been talking to whoever wins, let other parties also feel part and part. There's so much for everybody. And after all, we're all Nigerians. It doesn't matter whether you are PDP or Labour Party or APC or ADP or APC or anything you are, Republican, you are PRP or, look at what you can give to them so that they feel part and parcel of what is happening, at the national level. So right. I hope that happens because it's a necessity.
So then, what will you consider the biggest challenges facing Nigeria that will require urgent attention by the president-elect upon inauguration?
Well, I think it's the issue of unity. Believe you me, we need to be united as a nation, as a people. And the president-elect must hit the ground running by ensuring that he has his ministers, he has every organ of the government that he needs in building the economy. And then in the issue of corruption is one thing that we must fight, seriously. We must take it as a serious fight. It's not by lip service. Because if we do that, we are not harming anybody but ourselves. Look at the oil and gas sector. Look at the humongous amount of money that is being stolen from that sector. So if we just look other way and then say nothing, it doesn't matter. I mean, believe you me, that is the beginning of the end, for this country. Because where else we can't go on borrowing. No, it's not possible. I'm not saying we shouldn't borrow, but we have internally generated revenue. We have capacity to generate some of this money. In fact, some of the money we are borrowing, we are stealing from here. So they are just recycling, stolen money, giving it to us again as loan. And then they are making us to become their colony, unfortunately. So I think President-elect, by the time they fall in, you should hit the ground running, like I said, unity, corruption fighting, and this insecurity. Insecurity, believe you me, is one thing. And I'm telling you, by the time you have a working economy, if the economy works for everybody, insecurity will solve, automatically will be solved. Because what is happening is that people feel that they are not part and parcel of the system, and because it's not yielding anything to them, I mean, they are getting poorer every day. So this is why people take to crime. So if employment is there, if people feel part and parcel of the system, that you are not discriminated against, that because you are a Muslim or Christian or Yoruba or Hausa or Igbo, they look at you and say, well, you are a Nigerian and you have some competencies that we need and you are engaged, and they see you working. They don't see that it's just one particular section of the country that is at the helm of affairs. We will have peace in this country. And I'm sure the president-elect also is aware of all these things. And I know that, I hope people that are going to work with him will be truthful. People that have empathy, people that have fear of God, people that love this country, that will work for this country so that we can put all these things behind us. Because it's doable, because countries that have much less than what we have, look at what they are doing today. They are described as developed economies. You look at Singapore, Malaysia, even South Korea. Those ones, when they're starting together with us, they don't have 1/10 of what we have. And look at who they are today. Look at us with such possibilities, opportunities, and such young, dynamic population that can be engaged. And look at who we are, as a nation. And all these things are not being used to advantage of this country. We can take advantage of it and start working and start showing to the world that, yes, we can answer leaders.
Many thought will be the year of a third force, but that didn't happen. What do you think smaller parties need to do to break the jinx?
Well, I believe that politics, and democracy is about building, the country. And what definitely will happen is that other political parties, the growing ones, will have their opportunities, definitely, because it isn't that it's going to be all El Dorado, because you have APC in government today. No, they will make their mistakes, and then the smaller parties, of course, will have opportunity of also stepping forward and then bringing about that third force which you are talking about. Because it will happen in this country, because Nigeria is a great country that cannot be held down, in a manner that is being done today. It will definitely, spring up, in a manner that you will be amazed, because that's what has happened in most countries. You look at even China. China was more backward than we are now, and all the countries I've mentioned, they went through some even worse case scenario experience, than what Nigeria is going through today. But once you stumble into a good leader, it changes the whole thing, overnight. So it will happen in this country too, and the parties like ADP will become the party of the day, and that can happen. It can happen, definitely. So you don't lose hope, I'm sure, and the parties are coming together to see how we can build this country politically, economically, socially, and then to see that we lead that giant of Africa that we are will become the giant of the world, because we have everything. And like look at the way the Americans, Chinese and what have you, are coming to Africa, because they know that the next frontier for economic development is Africa. More than 35% of the resources of the world is deposited on Africa. It has not been tapped yet. So that's why they are scrambling, coming to Africa. Everybody, look at Harris, the vice president of America. She's coming to Africa. Look at what Chinese people are doing. So Africa is a continent that God has made to be the leader, the next leader of the humanity. It's Africa. Fantastic. And when you talk about Africa, you're talking about Nigeria. So this is why we have the opportunity, and I'm sure we're going to make the best of it.
All right, fantastic. I must thank you very much for your brilliant submission on the program tonight. I've been speaking with the chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Committee, IPAC, and presidential candidate party, ADP, Yabaji Yusuf Sani. Thank you very much, Alhaji, for coming on the program today. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much for watching. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But the conversation continues from here. Get in touch with us on Twitter at TVCNewsNG and at Olajumoke using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We are also on YouTube at youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Join us for the repeat episode at midnight and tomorrow for another edition of politics tonight, digging beyond the headlines. I am Olajumoke Olatunji.
Bye, Mom.
He's going to play in this weather? Why did you let him go? He might fall ill.
And if he doesn't go out for practice, how will he win more trophies? To protect our family from illness-causing germs during the rainy season, we use Dettol soap every day.
Dettol with germ defense gives you protection. Rainy season brings a lot of germs, and Dettol soap's germ defense protects you from up to 100 illness-causing germs. Dettol soap is endorsed by the Nigerian Medical Association. Be Dettol sure.
Itchy, greasy, and smelly braids can be a thing of the past. Introducing the new Ruwa braids from Expression. Made with 100% Aquatex fiber from Canicolon. The new Ruwa braids from Expression is extremely fast drying and perfect for friction-free washing. Stay dry this season with the new Ruwa braids from Expression. Now available in pre-stretch and regular braid variants and in beauty shops near you.
Ovi, you and Seward every time? Wetin happen? Abeg put you for Africa Magic, yo. E get one better new series for Showcase.
Wale, you dey play? We no get that channel. Africa Magic Showcase?
Why don't we then step up and get boosted, Sir John?
Time to step up and enjoy top entertainment. Yes, guys. We step up and get boosted. Yeah, bro.
Upgrade your subscription and get boosted to a higher package. If you are on DSTV Confirm, upgrade to DSTV Compact and get boosted to Compact Plus at no extra cost. Step up today and get a boost on us.
In the month of March, World Wildlife Day. On March the 8th is a day set aside as International Women's Day. March 13th is Commonwealth Day. And March 21st is the day dedicated to the elimination of racial discrimination, and also World Down Syndrome Day. World Water Day is on the 22nd. And March 24th is World Tuberculosis Day. While March 25th is International Day of Remembrance of the Victims of Slavery. Finally, on the 28th of March, it's 1 year remembrance of the Abuja-Kaduna train attack. Brace yourself for an interesting March, only on TVC News.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.